Hello and welcome to the DJ ForSex podcast, episode 92. My guest this week is Raphael, aka GoR FLsh. He has just released a new album called For The Kvlt. It is out on Jet Set Trash Records. It's kind of an electro, ambient, doom, metal, industrial type mix. It's really quite cool, so do check it out. It's very good. It kind of does kind of grip on your emotions and stuff like that, but we do tap on that in the interview, which is kind of cool. But yeah, apart from that, thank you for downloading previous episodes. People have continued to listen. That was the last one with Graham from formerly of Saxon. And yeah, I've got a couple of guests coming up. My next one is Dave Perry. For those into kind of retro gaming and things like that would know the name. If you ever watched Games Master or Games World, he was a co-presenter on those shows. But he's just starting up a new YouTube channel called Games Animal TV. And it looks quite cool. So I thought I'd nab him, get him on the show. He's also a tattoo artist. So anyone down in Torquay area of England, if you check out Revolver, barbershop and tattoo shop, yeah, check him out. It's some great tattoos. Just been checking them out online. He also does piercings and stuff like that as well, so anyone into that kind of stuff, do head down there. Tell him I sent you as well, that'd be nice. But anyway, on to GoR FLsh. Yeah, it was a great chatting to him. He's from Quebec, Canada. Yeah, apart from that, just sort of been doing mostly live stuff. Had Father's Day, that was kind of funky, and yeah, just been out and about really. Nothing to report just yet, although there is something coming up I really want to tell you all about, but I want to wait to a little bit nearer the time. But it does involve me DJing and some classic tracks, sort of tracks are from my youth and probably most of your youths as well. But yeah, it's kind of me getting back into the live scene, if you will. But yeah, I'll certainly be telling you about that as soon as I've, well, it is kind of confirmed, but I want to spend a bit more time talking about it. Might do a solo episode about it. But yeah, I'm going to lead you into GoR FLsh right now. Do check out his album For The Kvlt. It is out now on all good digital outlets. And yeah, enjoy. Cool. Well, Raphael, welcome to the show this week. You're also known as GoR FLsh,
yes,
which is what we've got you on the show today for. And you've just released a new album called For The Kvlt, which is out now on Jet Set Trash Records. And yeah, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Excellent. I know you said like before we started recording that, you know, a little bit hungover from last night's show, but yeah, hopefully this won't be too taxing on you. So,
hello. And anyway, English is not my first language, so
okay.
I always sound a bit hangover when I talk in English. So
that's okay. That's okay. That's all good. So yeah. Yeah, your album is just been released a few weeks ago. How has that initial reaction been for you so far for the album? It's For The Kvlt, isn't it? That's what it's called.
Yeah. It's been pretty much what I was expecting. It had some traction in the synthwave and dark synth scene, since those guys are made up of metalheads usually, and so I had some traction there, and I had some really good comments about it. I think the album is something pretty special for what it is, since it's mixing all the extremes of electronic music and the extremes of metal. So it's not an easy pill to swallow for everybody.
No,
so I'm pretty happy with what people think of it.
Cool.
As far as it goes right now.
Excellent. It is a very good album. I've been listening to it for probably a couple of weeks now since I was sent it by Zach, and yeah, it certainly does take you on a bit of a journey, because you've got these moments of like like kind of really kind of mellow, kind of like real sort of like instrument based. I mean, it's all sort of instrument based music, obviously. But you know how you go from something quite beautiful like some of your piano riffs into something quite dark and quite aggressive guitar and things like that. Like how it takes you on that like emotional journey. Because you've got tracks like some of the ones I really like Try, Fall and Repeat. Or sorry, Try, Fall, Repeat. I really love that track because it kind of takes you on that kind of like melodic journey. It's like a break in the whole thing. And you got tracks like Killing It, which is one of your sort of focus tracks. And again, it just like it's that other extreme. It's real heavy bass, heavy guitar, just like real aggressive kind of like moods, I suppose is probably words I'm looking for on that front. And yeah, I just want to say it's a great album on that front. It's very like I say, it's for anyone into that kind of that side of the music, that kind of instrumental synthwave, you know, things like that. It's a solid like, and if you're into your metal as well, that's the key with this one. If you love your sort of like darker side of music, then this is perfect for you. It's
a pretty complicated album to explain since there's so many elements to it. It's so far I would say my most personal creation, if you would say, because like you said, there's like those more mellow parts and where I kind of write some of the hardship I had in my life, but there's no vocals, so it's all in musical form.
Yes.
So a lot of pianos, a lot of strings and pads and ambience, but it always goes pretty metal and hard after that, or it's just kind of just a middle of a track where you stop and think. It's to make people think a little bit about their life, I would say.
Yeah, no, I mean,
it was for me. I wanted to make an album that would be really representing a bit more what I am than what I did previously, which was more really straight up dance electronic music, even if it was already influenced by metal and already really hard music. But I wanted to add a bit more of a personal touch in this one.
You can certainly feel that. I mean, like I said, it took me on a journey musically and emotionally, if you will. And it's that kind of thing because I love my dance music and I love my metal, so it really falls into my kind of that middle ground where they cross over. And like I've always been kind of a fan of like long instrumental kind of like metal music, you know, where like things like Neurosis and stuff that doesn't have vocals but doesn't need it. And yours was certainly one of them because you kind of get that without having to express it vocally. You do capture that in your instrumentation. Like I was listening to some of it earlier today, and I was in kind of a crappy mood, if you will, but it took me through it, and it took me through the other side of it. So after like the 5 minutes, I think, or so of the tracks, I think, which one was it? I'm looking at them now. Where is it? Sorry, I've got the track listing right here. Actually, this is the title track, For The Kvlt. And it took me through the other side. Like, so at the end of it, I was kind of like, well, cool. All right, my aggression's kind of it's been taken care of, if you will. And I just want, it's just like I say, you really do capture that, and you, like you say, for yourself, it's a very personal album, but you do feel that. It's very rare that you can feel that within music. Like some albums you do feel, and it's usually like, you know, you get people that make a lot of kind of like breakup songs, and because a lot of people go through that every day, but that kind of like just that kind of moment that people that I have, you know, and obviously you probably have as well, and it just sort of it tapped that note and got me through the other side of it, which was brilliant.
But there's in life there's hardship, but it's not always about breakup. This album isn't about that. It's about everyday life and how you try to be the best yourself, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah.
And this is mostly about that, and the title of some tracks really show that, and some other tracks are more influenced by my metal background. I'm a big fan of all kinds of metal, really. I listen to a lot of stuff.
Cool.
Right now I'm more into a stoner, doom metal and stuff like that, but I used to listen to a lot of black metal and death metal and pretty much all the spectrum of metal. I listen to a lot of stuff. So I tried to put a little bit of everything I love about music into this album, and with some of my personal life influences too. So it's a pretty weird mix, but I try to make it work as much as possible.
Yeah.
Also on the instrumentation, as you talked about, I want it was that was one of the hardest part of the album, was to make all this work together and like feel as one thing, and not like I've added guitars on top of that synth, and I've added pianos at that part, but it doesn't fit together with the rest of the song or with the rest of the instruments. Since using at least it's all electronic. I don't use actual real instruments for that album.
Yeah,
but I use really good qualities synths and like samplers. So when I use a piano, I have a really high quality sampler of a piano. So when I write it and I make it play, it plays like I want, and I will tweak all the velocities of every note to make it sure that it sounds exactly like I want, and it sounds natural.
Yeah. I was saying, they are very good synths, just to sort of drop in there. The sounds of them, like I say, I can normally pick out, good kind of synthetic sounds and real sounds, if you will, when I'm listening to, because my musical background, I've been sort of doing production and stuff like that, but this one, it was really like you're using high, and you can tell you're using high quality just from the way they sound. It's a very good, and if I'd like said that to you, I would have said you would have used live instruments for some of those, to be perfectly honest with you, and obviously you've told me you're not, so you're using them well.
It was pretty tricky to get to that perfect balance, because most of the time when there's a guitar playing, it's from I use a VST called Shreddage, where it's like a collection of guitar picking and stuff, so you can really tweak it to have the guitar play like you want, and after that you put your amps and everything, like virtual amps and virtual guitar pedals and stuff. And but I will mostly play the guitar at the same time as I play a synth at the same time. So it's always like fusion with synths and real instruments, so that's why it sounds like it does. And it's always hard to tell if it's a guitar or if it's a synth or if it's both or what. I wanted really to I worked hard on this to have it really fusion together, and having the more realistic sounds fused with the synth sounds, and not have like two stuff on each side.
Cool. So tell me a little bit more about yourself, just on the sort of like background wise. Like you said, like during parts of what you've already told me, like you were in metal bands, you were making kind of more electronic sort of like dance music as well. So where did it start for you? What was your sort of like catalyst to get into this side of things?
In fact, the banding, I played in a couple of the bands, but it never went further than like practices. maybe did maybe a few show with bands, but it never really worked out for me. Maybe I was unlucky with the persons I found, or but when you are in a band with like 3-4 other person, there's always difficulties to be able to do something that pleases everyone in the band. So I haven't been lucky to find other like-minded people like me that was ready to do something like I wanted to do. So that's that's the thing that brought me to electronic music. When you are alone and you can do everything by yourself, you can really end up with the exact sound that you want.
Yeah.
So that's why. Sorry. I created GoR FLsh.
Okay. Cool. So, coming out of Canada, like you are, is it Quebec you're in? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. What is the scene like specifically for the stuff you're making right now? Is there much of a scene for it, or is it still more driven kind of the sort of big house kind of like electronic music side of things?
Yeah. In fact, in Quebec City, the biggest thing, there's two really big styles, and those are techno and drum and bass.
Okay.
Those two really get much of the attention.
Yeah.
With GoR FLsh for a while, it was I made a few really successful shows in Quebec City. But with time, it became a bit harder for the live shows. And the fact is that when I started GoR FLsh 2, at the beginning, it was, like I said, it was more electronic dance music. It was electro trash music, really.
Okay.
And the more I tried to add metal elements and everything, it became a bit harder to find an audience for it, since it's a fusion of style and like I think in the bio of the album, Zach wrote that I was too metal for I was too metal for electronic music lovers, and I was too electronic for metalheads, and that kind of what happens a bit.
Yeah.
But with time, I think people are more and more ready to listen to something a bit different, and to there's less and less people that are like really elitist in one style and that only listen to one thing, and there's nothing else that you can listen to and stuff like that. I've been more with synthwave. Metalheads are starting to be interested in that kind of music, and since I have a bit of that kind of sound in my music now. I start to get a bit of traction there.
Nice.
So and then Quebec, it's starting to have a small synthwave scene. So I guess that gradually it will become more interesting in my hometown. But right now, it's not a very good place to be playing music like I do.
Because I mean, I've spoken to a few sort of artists coming out of Canada. Trying to think of, I spoke to a guy called Danko Jones most recently. He seems to be sort of like it's more sort of like rock and metal side of things. That I generally speak to, and I was just curious on the scene out there, because I've spoken to a couple of sort of smaller bands like Van Halst, Medieval, like I say, Danko Jones, he's been around for a little while though, and who else was the other one? Oh, Keychain was another one, but they're all kind of dotted around. I know Canada's a big place, but I was just sort of curious as to seeing how, if that crossed over at all, because obviously the sort of sound that you're sort of producing is that kind of industrial metal doom kind of sound, and some of these bands are kind of, some of them a bit more kind of like on the rock and roll side of things, you know, a bit more sort of mainstream. But I was just curious to see if you're actually playing metal shows, or if you're playing solely industrial shows, or if you're actually playing, you know, electronic dance music shows.
Yeah, I mostly play in in more electronic music shows.
Okay.
For a while, I used to play after like metal shows were finishing, since usually metal shows plays until like 11 or midnight, and then usually the crowd leave the place and it's finished. So for a while, what we were doing is with my friends, we also play similar music. We would rent the place after midnight and then start another show there after the metal bands, and we would tell the person that were already there that you can stay for free, and other people that wanted to enter had the coast. So and it was really the idea of merging the two scenes together to have electronic and metal music together, and it kind of worked for a while until the place where we're doing that was ready to do that kind of went bankrupt.
Okay.
So but it doesn't matter to me. To be honest, what really mattered to me is just to make my music. I enjoy doing live shows, but it's not all there is to it to me. Some people really thrive on it and do music for the live shows and everything. But to me, it's really the music creation in itself that makes me happy and that I'm passionate about. Excellent. So it doesn't really matter to me fame and live shows and touring the world and stuff like that. It doesn't matter much to me as much as just doing the music itself.
Cool.
Is important to me.
Excellent. So, I mean, saying that, with your sort of like, you said you're not so sort of too fussed about playing live and stuff, do you actually have any shows lined up, or if you got any plans ahead for GoR FLsh itself?
Yeah, I have a show coming in Quebec City. There's, in fact, in the province of Quebec.
Cool.
We have the National Day, and it's coming in a few days at the end of the month, and I'll be playing a show there. So that should be a lot of fun.
Excellent.
But I don't have really any other shows lined up.
Okay.
I played a couple of shows at the beginning of the year. And then it was really about getting the album out and everything. Yeah. So I haven't been playing much shows lately. I play more show as my other project, like I was talking to you about before we went live. That it's called Into the Pale Abyss.
Okay.
And this is more of a classic. I wouldn't say classic, but it's more of a techno-ish project.
Okay.
And this one is getting more traction locally, so I play mostly as this project, but this one is really only electronic stuff. It doesn't have really metal influences and stuff like that. Okay. But I didn't do it to please people and have more gigs.
Yeah.
It was just another project I wanted to do for a while.
Cool.
I have multiple projects for a lot of different styles, and sometimes there's a project that just works more in locally than other, and so I ride with it.
Okay, cool. No, that's all good. It's always good to have different avenues of expression. Because a lot of people stick to one and stay with one, but I've found with a lot of electronic artists like yourself have different projects under different names for different styles. Because I've spoken to people like Clayton Cell Dweller, and again the same sort of farm of Brett and Blue Starly, and they've all got kind of like a synthwave project that says a drum and bass project that's a separate thing, and their sort of main kind of like crossover thing as well. So it just seems to be a thing, because like a lot I kind of came up through the sort of band system where I was in bands, and it was just one project, and if you made a side project it means you weren't concentrating on your band and stuff like that. I'm happy to see this sort of attitude change now, where people, I mean, obviously because most people are working on their own, like yourself. It's sort of a solo project, but you've got different sort of personas for each section. rather than confusing everyone with a multiple genre kind of crossover event, if you will, that goes from sort of like big hall, sort of like I say, house music to the sort of dark and industrial stuff. It doesn't make sense because you're just sort of, with one track you're making someone happy, but then the next track you're alienating them, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Now people are kind of doing that kind of like separate thing, which is good.
Yeah, and I made it. I started to have multiple projects exactly because of that, and it was mostly because I seen other artists kind of do it, and in electronics music it happened even more. Like you follow an artist and he releases a track, you love it, and the next track it's not something you're interested in at all, and I didn't want to do this. So I kind of split in my work around different projects, and I can focus more on those style, and I'm not like wondering if this will fit in that project or not, or anything. I have too many projects right now, so.
Well, that's always good. It's better to have too many than not enough. So, I've got a couple of questions left for you that I can let you get on with the rest of your day over in Quebec. These are sort of like questions I generally ask everybody that I speak to, just to sort of get a sort of oversight of kind of the person that, you know, musically that you are and stuff. Obviously through conversation, which you've already had, but this one question is kind of one that people sort of either spend a lot of time on if they don't know, or if they know it straight away, then just rattle it off. But basically, I'm going to ask you your 3 top albums that kind of influence the way you are today, the person or the musician that you are today. If you could pinpoint sort of those 3 kind of pivotal albums.
Oh yeah, this is a good one. I will open my music software to see what I've been listening to the most. But I would say that on the electronic side, the album that really made me want to do electronic music would be "Oi Oi Oi" by Boys Noise.
Cool.
Which is really electronic techno-ish artist from Germany.
Yeah,
and he. And on this album, really raw and distorted synth sound. And before I listened to that album, I never heard really electronic music like that. Also, like you talked previously about Justice, and this too with songs like Water of Nazareth. This track was really heavy for an electronic song.
Yeah.
So this will be on the electronic side. What really made me want to do electronic music, but on the more electro side, also I would say on the more metal side. But in metal and industrial side, I guess my name is really I stolen it from that band. It's a band called GoR FLsh.
Yep.
It's kind of metal industrial hybrid.
Yep.
And I took a lot of influence from that. And when I chose the name for GoR FLsh, they were on hiatus for like 10 years. So
yes.
I never thought that they would start back to do music. So, but now it's a bit confusing. Some people are confused by my name and their name, but at the time they weren't active. So
yeah.
Anyway, but an album from GoR FLsh that will be the one of the more influential would be their more, I would say their biggest known album, which is Street Cleaner. Which is a big classic in that scene. And for a third thing, since I kind of fused the Boys Noise and Justice thing together, I would say probably the other side of the music that really influenced me too would be the band Mogwai.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Which is, if you know them, but if people don't know them, they're a post-rock band.
Yeah.
And they have really long winding tracks with really ambient, but they kind of make it go heavier and heavier. And this is one of the style I use a lot of in my music, to start a bit more softly and gradually add elements to make it progress to something bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And their album, to me, that really made me love it was Happy Songs for Happy People. And even if this album is pretty sad when you listen to it, it's pretty funny for a name for an album where you do melancholic music.
Yes.
But that will be pretty much my three main album and three main styles that I ended up mixing with the GoR FLsh project.
Cool. No, Mugwai, I was going to say that like some of your stuff did kind of remind me of that, but I didn't want to say, because I didn't know if, like you say, because I've seen them live, fortunately, but I don't know how far out they actually like sort of span. Obviously, they made it out over to the other side of the world and stuff on that front. But no, definitely, they're a fantastic band, and I can definitely hear that in your sound, along with the GoR FLsh side of things. And awesome. So, away from music, what other sort of hobbies or things or passions do you have?
I would say that I'm pretty much into gaming and watching movies.
Cool.
And that's pretty much my two other main stuff. I'm not a big sports guy or stuff like that. So when I have free time, if I'm not doing music, I'm watching movies or playing the newest games that came out.
Excellent. That's a good way of doing it.
Yeah.
That's what I do. So that's all good. And finally, where can people reach out to you? What's the best sort of avenue of sort of finding out about you guys?
I guess the best way to listen to all of my stuff would be to go on my SoundCloud, which is pretty simple. It's soundcloud.com/GoR FLsh, and it's a GoR FLsh. It will be clear since a lot of people misspell it. And then you can see pretty much most of what I made. But it's easy to listen to it on I'm pretty much on all platforms. You go on Google Play Music, on Spotify, on Beatport, on iTunes Music, and my music is pretty much everywhere. But if you go on the SoundCloud, maybe there's some more, like some freebies and stuff that wasn't released on a label, so it isn't on Spotify or other streaming service like that.
Cool.
So it's another good. It will be the best place right now to see most of what I made, but it's also one of the worst sounding website on the internet. So it's
yeah, it certainly is. No, it's all good. It's all good. We all use it, so it's all good. So cool. Raphael, thank you very much for your time. I do appreciate it. Good luck with your album. For The Kvlt, which is out now on Jet Set Records, Jet Set Trash, Records, and again, like I say, thank you for your time. It's an absolute pleasure to speak to you, man.
Yeah, it was really a fun time. Thank you very much for taking the time to talk to me about my weird music project.
No worries, man. Thank you. Have a good rest of your day. All right.
You too.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.